State leaders and politicians have been busy, especially when it comes to your tax dollars. Let's start in Kansas, where last week Governor Laura Kelly vetoed a handful of bills passed by the state legislature this year. One has to do with property tax reform, a priority several politicians on both sides of the aisle wanted to address. Last week, the governor issued the second of two vetoes on property tax bills passed by both parties in the legislature, capping how much local governments could collect in property taxes and even triggering petitions that could essentially block local budgets. In a statement, the governor called the plan another sure-to-fail, untenable property tax bill, adding, "It is time for the legislature to partner with our city and county officials to develop a strategy to reduce the property tax burden on their constituents." Republican leaders tell me they are surprised by this veto, especially with the concessions made after the first go-round.
It truly puts our people out there in a tough position because literally people are being taxed out of their homes. For those who are on fixed incomes, this is just a brutal thing for them to have to deal with.
Speaker Dan Hawkins called a counterproposal from the governor a short-term fix. We'll get to that in a moment. Because the legislature adjourned for the year, these vetoes cannot be overridden. Meanwhile, on the other side of the state line, Missouri lawmakers still in session in Jeff City are making a push on income tax reform, a major priority of Governor Kehoe and state Republicans. They're sending a measure to voters in an attempt to gradually eliminate the state's income tax. That will likely be on the November ballot. Let's get to the heart of what's happening in both our states with our roundtable of journalists. Please welcome back Brian Ellison, senior news analyst at KCUR, and KMBC 9 political reporter Michael Mahoney. All right, let's start in Kansas, gentlemen. Property tax reform really at the top of the list of notable vetoes from Governor Laura Kelly in her last year.
It was at the top of the list, and it was also at the top of the priority list for Republican leadership. The House and the Senate finally did agree, mostly on the House version of property tax reform, which was placing a limit on the amount that cities could increase their budgets in any one year, their tax revenues from property taxes. It would have been very easy for anyone to challenge an increase in a budget of more than 3%. 10% of voters signing a petition would have done it. The Senate wanted to do more. They wanted actually to cap property taxes, but that didn't make it through. Well, either proposal would have been too much for Governor Kelly, and she issued that veto, possibly her last one.
Perhaps. And the other contributing factor on this is the fact that even with the supermajorities in the Senate and the House in Topeka, Republicans could not agree which way they wanted to go on this. And in fact, at one point, Ty Masterson in the Senate was talking about a constitutional amendment to cap taxes at 3% or the rate of inflation, whichever was lower. So it was, as you mentioned, Brian, it was the priority for the Republicans in the legislature, and they didn't get it across the finish line.
Now, we should mention the governor says that she didn't get any traction on her proposal, which might be baked into this decision a little bit. This would have given Kansans a one-time reduction on their car tax, along with exemptions and a fund to help counties with property tax increases. Republicans say that that plan just didn't go far enough.
Well, that's exactly what they said. And you know, this is one of those sort of classic political moments, Cody, where it feels like if the Republican leadership and the Democratic governor could have sat down together and said, what is something we can all agree on, they all could have been able to claim that they achieved property tax reform in the state. But because the Republicans were not willing to settle for what the Democratic governor asked for, and because she was not willing to go as far as they were, nothing happened, and that's going to be the legacy of this legislative session.
Interestingly enough, I look for this now to be a campaign issue in the Republican primary. And in fact, Phil Sarnecki is already up with an ad, and has been for weeks now, ripping the legislature about their inability to deal with this.
I mean, yeah, this was the big issue for an election year. And a false start and a false finish.
Yeah, and enormously frustrating to Senate President Ty Masterson, whose gubernatorial campaign now cannot claim victory in that area, and he also can't run against his own legislature.
Right, yeah, good point. Speaking of elections, let's jump to Missouri, where voters will now have a say on income tax reform. Mahoney, what are we watching there?
Whether or not it's on the August ballot or the November ballot, just middle of last week, Governor Kehoe said, I haven't made up my mind what ballot that this would go on, the August primary, the November midterm general election. I would not be surprised to see him put the income tax question on the ballot in August. It's a smaller turnout, it's more manageable, there are more Republican seats up, which would presumably generate a bigger Republican turnout. So if he elects to put this on in August, won't surprise me.
And yet, remember that previous Republican governors have made a choice like that to put an initiative on the August ballot, thinking it would help get their agenda advanced, and that hasn't been how it worked out. Medicaid reform, Medicaid expansion in Missouri was passed by voters on the August ballot. The right to work law was repealed by voters on the August ballot. So it is possible that that might be the decision, but it may not work the way the governor hopes.
And the other thing to remember about this is there are at least two powerful lobbying groups down in Jefferson City and across the state, for that matter, the Missouri Realtors Association and the Associated Industries. Neither one are strangers to the workings of the State House down in Jefferson City. They are against this particular tax proposal whenever it goes on the ballot, and they're going to try to marshal their forces to defeat it. And don't forget, organized labor.
Right. Real quick, while we have time, waning days of the session, what should we be watching for?
I think the big issue in the final days of a session is always the budget. We're a week away from the deadline where the Missouri budget has to be approved. There are significant differences between the Senate and the House versions that have been approved. We'll see how it works out.
And Missouri also has property taxes on their agenda, and in the last 2 weeks, look for that to make some sort of move, or they make some sort of move on it.
All right, we'll talk about it more next week. Michael Mahoney, Brian Ellison, thank you so much. Count on KMBC 9 News and Heart of the Matter as we track your tax dollars and how decisions made in Jeff City and Topeka affect you and your family. Look for updates on air and online at KMBC.com.